What's up, guys? Chris here, back again. Today we got a really interesting video. I'm going to be talking about erectile dysfunction and the actual true causes of erectile dysfunction. And I believe really there are only two real causes if you look at like the principle-based actual root of the issue. Now, if you Google around, you'll see everywhere. I mean, people are like saying all these different things are causing erectile dysfunction. But a lot of what they talk about are certain diseases or whatever, using certain drugs, pharmaceuticals, certain habits. But really, when it comes down to it, those things that they're talking about are habits that are influencing your body in the way that is messing up the system in one of two key ways. So ultimately, it all comes down to these two things. And truly, when you really look down at it, it comes down to one thing. So the two things that I'm going to be talking about today that really influence and cause at the core, cause erectile dysfunction are, first off, poor circulation, and second off, hormonal imbalance. So to look at what really causes blood flow issues or circulation issues in general, the first thing, if you look at like indicators, is that actually, and most people, I rarely have ever heard anyone talk about this, is just aldosterone and melatonin are too high. And typically that happens because of excessive serotonin production in the body and the interplay between the serotonin and the estrogen as well. So when your body's producing too much serotonin, which we'll get into some more detail here, and I'm also going to do another video about it here on the channel just for information about it. When your body's overproducing serotonin, when it's out of a balance with the other neurotransmitters that your body needs, what happens is the aldosterone levels get too high, and you have this imbalance with aldosterone and melatonin that is also completely caused mostly by a salt deficiency. It's really interesting. So a lot of people are pursuing, and they think that low salt diets are healthy for them, but really what happens is when you don't consume enough salt, and your body needs salt, it really does. When you're not consuming enough of it, you have these compensatory effects that happen inside the body, and one of which is that you have a constriction in the kidneys, and your body starts to swell in certain areas. And most people notice the areas of swelling being in extremities first, hands and feet, and lower legs. Lower legs is a very common one as well. So these swelling extremities are really just the preservation of water. Basically, your blood pressure is increasing. Your organs are not getting the blood volume that they need in order to function properly. And then because of this, they start to lack the nutrients that they need. And this deficiency is, or it's going to cause like a bunch of different types of deficiencies and imbalances. But really, the root cause of it does come back to a low salt intake, which is really interesting. It sounds so simple, but I mean, ultimately, most of what our problems are in terms of our health come down to like the choices that we make in terms of what we eat or what we expose our body to, because that is actually how you're getting nutrients from your environment. So that essentially is the core cause of a blood flow issue in and of itself is the low salt intake. And with the melatonin issue, that's like, it's basically an excessive melatonin production. So you need to counteract it by producing more vitamin D in your body. And so I put together some action steps for the blood flow element that can help you to overcome this. And I'll run through them here first off. So the easiest one with melatonin and regulating the interplay between vitamin D and melatonin is actually just to spend more time out in direct sunlight or bright light. Direct sunlight is best because it's going to naturally trigger that, but you can still have like a bright light stimulation of vitamin D in the body. So that's a pretty easy one. Eating more salt is the obvious one. If you're eating a low amount of salt or a low sodium diet, putting salt on your food is a very good way to get more salt, and it's very inexpensive. And you're going to want to basically focus on the quality of salt. Like anything else that I talk about, like quality of food source is extremely, extremely important for your success with pursuing your health goals, because a lot of things are tainted. So what you want to do is look for like a good sea salt or Himalayan salt, that sort of thing. One of my favorite types of salt. Actually, there's a few types of salt that I use. One of them is like a Mexican lagoon salt, which is really cool, and tastes absolutely delicious. And then I got another big jar of salt from my buddy he's a master chef, and he learned in France about this French salt, very, very fine grained salt. It's a French sea salt that he uses to season everything, and that's what they were teaching in the French culinary training. So he gave me a big jar of it, and I've been using it actually for a couple years, and it brings the flavor out in the food. It's quite delicious. It's amazing. Because to basically sum up the salt argument again, it's you don't want to really restrict it because most people are already low in sodium, and they're like they inaccurately believe all that the hype over the years about sodium or having too much salt in their diet, and it's not really true at all. The sodium deficient diet basically causes your cells to take up sodium inappropriately because it's compensating for the lack of the dietary intake of the sodium. And that's what's correlated really with the swelling and the constriction of the blood vessels throughout the body, which causes the circulation issues, especially in your extremities. This sodium deficiency eventually starts to stimulate excessive serotonin production. And then the downstream effect of the excessive serotonin is that your aldosterone becomes too high and starts to really constrict the blood vessels. So luckily, these are some pretty easy action steps for you to take. I mean, they're very fundamental, good health action steps. And then I also wanted to highlight that you want to eat in a way that's going to promote a proper thyroid function, which is the thermo diet, which you can find more information over at thermodiet.com, because if your thyroid is functioning properly, the healthy thyroid hormone levels are going to protect against the excess water retention in general, and it's also going to help to protect against excess aldosterone and serotonin and melatonin as well as any sort of sodium and magnesium loss in the body. So you want to make sure that your thyroid gland is producing thyroid hormone in the right level, and the thermo diet is the proper way, most accurate way to keep your thyroid really healthy. I made a list of some supplements that people can use, some compounds, natural compounds that people can use, because a lot of people, when they have blood flow issues, that naturally it's the common conventional wisdom, like go to your doctor and ask them about it, or you have a blood pressure problem or something like that. So they're going to give people all these different medication options, and people end up taking those. They have more side effects than they want. So some natural compounds that you can take on top of eating more salt and getting direct sunlight are called Vasodrive AP. And Vasodrive AP, it's also known as amyl peptide, and it's made from it's a peptide in the casein protein that is Vasodrive AP and amyl peptide. They're basically taken from New Zealand grass-fed cattle, and because in New Zealand cattle is a huge industry, they extract that peptide specifically from the casein, and it's been shown in 30 clinical trials, like human clinical trials, to have all sorts of effects, helping erectile dysfunction, blood pressure, circulation, etc. All these different parameters. It's very, very effective. And then another one that I've talked about here on the channel before is garlic and vitamin C. And essentially, when people in the study basically taking the combination of the right dose of garlic and vitamin C, they saw the following improvements. The subjects did. First off, they had a endothelial nitric oxide output of an increase of 200% naturally, which that is facilitating better blood flow through the veins. Also, in terms of blood pressure, systolic blood pressure dropped on average from 142 to 115, back down to a normal range. And then diastolic blood pressure dropped from 92 to 77. So it was very, very effective, just this combination of garlic extract and vitamin C at lowering their blood pressure back to a healthy level. So the cool thing is that I've been aware of this research for a really long time. This is how I formulated our UMZU supplement, Redwood. So Redwood is our circulation support supplement, and it actually contains all these ingredients I just talked about, as well as a couple other ones that have great research in terms of improving your circulation and helping you overcome ED issues that are related to circulation. Now, the other cause, though, of ED that is probably really at the root of everything, because we just talked about a couple of these things, is the hormonal imbalance. And the body is just this big closed system that everything that takes place in your body has a reaction, and certain things can cascade and do cascade quite far-reaching throughout the body when you have any sort of imbalance. And hormonal imbalance is extremely common, especially in the modern world with so many endocrine disrupting chemicals and habits that we do that can throw our hormones out of whack. And like I just mentioned with the circulation issues with melatonin and aldosterone, both of which are hormones, if there's something slightly out of balance as seemingly small as not eating enough salt in your diet, it can really have or not getting enough sunlight, it can have a wide-reaching effect throughout the body. So with hormonal imbalance, I mean, obviously this is kind of been my focus for 10 years now in terms of researching and teaching. And I really think it is the crux of human health. So the erectile dysfunction is caused by some sort of imbalance in your hormones. And usually, you could focus on all sorts of different hormones because there's so many of them, and even neurotransmitters acting as hormones like serotonin. But the crux of it for men, especially, if you're going to focus on I believe in high leverage scenarios in terms of like focusing your effort, I think correcting your testosterone levels and your testosterone production naturally, as well as your thyroid hormone functioning, your thyroid gland functioning to produce enough thyroid hormones. Those are the high leverage things, because really what it comes down to is like people are going to point to these causes and be like, this disease is causing my ED, or this drug is causing my ED. But really what it is, those are either a habit that you're doing that's causing a hormonal imbalance, or the disease is really just a manifestation of symptoms of the hormonal imbalance. And it might take decades before you end up with a disease like that, but ultimately it was because there was an imbalance that occurred chronically. And your body is trying to compensate, it's trying to find nutrients in certain areas, it starts to strip them from other areas, and then eventually that imbalance becomes pathological. But ultimately it all comes down to the imbalance of your hormones in general and the interactions of them, and your brain being able to signal properly to certain glands to produce those hormones, and then the feedback loop back up through your spinal cord to your brain. It's just this constantly going feedback loop throughout your life, and you want to make sure that you can balance your hormones properly. So those are the two main things. And if you're looking to balance your stress or your testosterone levels and increase them naturally, I mean, I have probably hundreds of videos on this channel by this point, this YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, or you can read my book, Master Your T, which is a very, very detailed, comprehensive look at everything you could ever think of to naturally optimize your testosterone levels and bring your hormonal balance back, restore it naturally. The framework for thinking that I like to think about and teach is called the masculine optimization pyramid. And basically it's a very simple way of visualizing the priority of what you should be focused on. The base of the pyramid being micronutrients, so you don't have any vitamin and mineral deficiencies. And then the next level being the nutrition, and how nutrition can play a huge role and does play a huge role in those deficiencies. And this would also encompass things like making sure your gut health is there, because that's how your body is going to assimilate nutrients from your food. And then moving up, looking at lifestyle factors, exposures that you have, habits that you have that are potentially causing these imbalances, as well as moving up to training and activity. We need to be active. The human body needs activity. There's actually a study showing that in as little as 2 days of like complete inactivity, not moving, healthy human subjects started to display prediabetic symptoms. So you need to be moving. You need to be, even if it's just walking. But I talk a lot about, for testosterone, how to train your body in the way that it's going to naturally produce enough testosterone to keep you balanced. And then on the top, supplements, which are the fun stuff that I like to talk about and think about. And I know a lot of people love supplements and they like to focus on supplements. There are a lot of cool natural compounds you can use as well. But again, that's kind of the top of the pyramid, where you want to address all the other stuff as well. and that stuff's, you know, more vitally foundationally important than trying to, you know, use just one supplement. But if you use the supplements along with everything else, it can be massively effective. Then with you know, proper thyroid function and testosterone in general, I firmly believe, through an evolution of my own thinking and research over the last 10 years, has been the culmination is the thermo diet is the proper way to do that. That's the proper way to eat. It's the proper way to think and live, and think about what you eat and what you expose your body to. Which again, you can find out more information about the thermo diet at thermodiet.com. And Master Your Tea is available on Amazon. It's available on umzu.com, umzu.com, if you want to read that book. So basically the action steps there are to, you know, follow thermo, be thermo. Like if you're hormonally imbalanced and you're curious about exploring a new way of eating in terms of restoring that hormonal balance, just go thermo. I mean, people are dropping, especially in our Facebook group, which you can join if you want. It's free. The people are dropping their blood tests in there after 90 days, 6 months, a year of just like massive hormonal improvements. So you can go in there and join the group and go check them all out. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. It's pretty damn cool. So you can also use, in terms of supplementation, like one of the most common things that people love to use is the combination of Redwood and Testro X. So Redwood is our circulation supplement that I talked about with, you know, a lot of clinically trialed ingredients, really great. We put the exact right dosages in there. That's going to work. And then Testro X is our testosterone focused supplement. So the combo is really good. I'll show you a couple reviews on the screen. I mean, it's very, very common. It's the most common stack that people are using right now, guys, at least. You know, check it out. Like, especially with relation to erectile dysfunction and improving a lot of the term, I guess everyone's saying, like, they're waking back up with their morning wood again, right? So that's a good indicator, though. I mean, it's something that shows you demonstrably in the morning that your body is starting to become healthier again. Is if you don't have a morning wood, but then you start getting morning wood again, it can be very motivating, and it's a very real indicator of restoring the health back into your body, hormonally and circulatory wise. So hopefully you learned some stuff from this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more helpful information videos on how to restore your body and the health to your body naturally. And I will see you on the next video.